Years and still moving. This is NLL Lacrosse Talk. I'm Candid Frank. Gary Groob is here, as well as Jake Withers, the top transition player in the NLL last year and top face-off man with Halifax Thunderbirds and the Peterborough Lakers. He also happens to be a fireman, I think, in Durham region, right? Durham region?
Yep, Oshawa, Durham region.
Yeah, Oshawa, Durham region. Same kind of thing. Anyway, so we always ask, how did you pick up a stick?
I feel like most guys, I guess, is because of my dad. He played back in the 70s and 80s, just in his little town called Keene, just outside of Peterborough. So it was always hockey's in the winters and lacrosse in the summers, and I just kind of followed suit. And yeah, the rest is history. That was when I was 7 years old, so 24 years ago.
What kept you in the game?
Like I said, I feel like it's a real Canadian kid thing to do, right? You pick up the lacrosse stick when the spring comes, and then you put it down and pick up the hockey stick when the snow comes. So it was just kind of something to do for the summer, and then it kind of evolved into my primary sport, and then from there was an opportunity to obviously play in college and then the pros, and yeah, that's kind of kept me busy since I picked it up 24 years ago. So. Fell in love with it, like most guys.
Well, some players play because they like hitting. Some players play because they like the scoring. Some guys like passing the puck. Some guys like denying players from scoring, like goaltenders. Is there a facet of the game that you like more than the others?
That's a great question, Frank. To be honest, I've never really thought of it like that. I mean, I feel like I love all aspects of the game, but if I'm actually really thinking about it, I think that the biggest thing I love about the game of lacrosse is kind of the locker room, being around the guys, and especially during summer ball and during the pro league when you're traveling with the same 25 guys a few times a week. I think that's what kind of keeps me coming back. So I know it's something that playing with some older guys later in their career, like Ryan Benesh and David Brock, it's something that they always echo is it's not so much them being afraid to put the stick down as it is, them, kind of missing the guys in those long travel days and the few cold ones after a big win. So I think it's definitely the locker room that is probably my favorite part of the game.
And lacrosse, more than any other league, has a transition from summer to winter. You'll play against guys you played with in the winter. You'll play with guys that you played in the summer that you didn't play in the winter. That must make it interesting as well in the locker room.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone basically, knows each other or has played with somebody who knows somebody. So, for as big as a community or as many players as there are getting into the game of lacrosse, it's still a very small community, especially in the pro league. So, yeah, it's always fun. Like I know the last Thursday they're playing Six Nations. There's almost half that team that I suit up with in the wintertime, and I know a lot of my friends and family around here who just kind of watched me playing up in Peterborough since I was a little kid. It's they're kind of taken back by it when guys that I'm going to their weddings and going to hang out with them between games in the winter. I'm trying to hack their arm off in the summer. They don't really understand it, but it's definitely a part of the game of lacrosse, and it's kind of what makes it unique, a little different than other sports. So it's fun.
Yeah, Peterborough and Oshawa are pretty well known when it comes to lacrosse, right, Gary?
Absolutely. It's funny because we had Jeff Snyder on not long ago, and I was bringing up to him the one player that would more or less mirror his game when he was in his prime is you, and very very modestly he was. I don't think that Jake would put it. He's that much further ahead now than him. But I think that the game that you have and the game that he played is very, very similar. Both fantastic face-off guys. No guff, lots of grit, and aggressive. Am I close, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honored that he would say that, to be completely honest. As much as I like to kind of mix it up and, try and play that agitator role, I think he he did that in a little more literal sense, though, where he would actually make guys pay. And I know he played in an era where that was a little more frequent than it was today. But I kind of grew up watching him back before, kind of facing off was as big as a facet of my game as it is now. But I remember when I was, 12, 13 years old and he was playing his summer ball in Peterborough for a few seasons there. I'd always, be hanging around the rink, and he was always nice enough to kind of show me a few things here and there. So to kind of be able to have that come full circle and be able to suit up with him as a teammate for Team Candid in 2018 and
Right.
be able to learn even more from him as a young man, it was obviously something that was very special to me. But yeah, I think we're very similar players, especially with what we can do at the dot. But again, I think he obviously, in his prime and in my prime, would pound the shit out of me, for lack of a better term. But yeah, that's definitely a great honor. He was obviously one of the legends that I watched growing up.
Right. Let's talk about that, about being a face-off guy. When did it become that this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, it's a good
when did
question.
you reach the moment?
It's a good question, actually. And I feel like a lot of people or a lot of players, sorry, nowadays in today's day and age, like it's became a lot more specialized than, even in my time when I was growing up, and even more so, in someone like Snides' time.
Mhm.
It was always when I was growing up, like we would play box primarily, obviously being Canadians, and then field was just kind of something that we would do in the springtime to get ready for box season. So there's never really a face-off guy. There's usually just, one of your middies that had a little more juice or a little more stamina than the rest. And, taking a face off was just kind of another part of the game. It's what you do after you scored a goal or got scored on, and you try and get the ball for your team so you can play offense. But um, I was fortunate to grow up playing with Zach Courier almost every year in minor, and he'd take him and I'd take him. And then obviously he went a little more of the offensive player route, and when he went to college, and I went to college as kind of a do-it-all midi, I guess. And there's an opportunity at Ohio State to get a little more playing time on the field, and it's kind of a hole that we need to fill. So I slowly kind of rolled into that, and wasn't very good at it, to be honest, my first couple years, but kind of worked away at it. A really good coach there named Jameson Kester, who kind of stuck with me and saw some potential, and I kind of broke out my junior year. So after that, it was definitely something that I kind of specialized in a little more.
Right.
During the NCAA seasons, at least. Obviously knowing how much of a impact that has in the field game, and then I come home in the summers and be able to continue to play as, I don't want to say like a full on lacrosse player, but obviously our stereotypical one in Canada, where you don't really specialize in just facing off and getting off the floor. So it kind of helped allow me to continue to hone my skills as a defender and a transition player, and then also take face-offs to help gain possession for my team. So it was
Right.
it was always kind of weird, to be honest, going from summer or like the NLL seasons to the MLL and PLL when I was playing, because it was basically like two different jobs I had to do.
Absolutely. Let's go back a little bit further. Let's talk about coming up in Peterborough and playing for the Junior Lakers and playing A. You spent 5 years in there. Now, the program itself, when I talk to it, when I'm in Peterborough, people rave about it. It's, what makes it so special that is that much above all the other programs?
Well, I mean, I feel like if you talk to anyone from Peterborough, that born and raised and have played, all the way up through the minor system to junior to senior, it's the lacrosse mecca of not only North America but the world, right?
Yep.
You can just walk into the Mem Center and see all the banners, and it speaks for itself. But yeah, it's just obviously something that's very deeply rooted there, and the traditions that the guys started way back in the early 1900s, and that have continued to kind of be upheld and kind of championed all the way to our current state of the programs, both minor, junior, and senior. It's something that people are very, very serious about, and very, very proud to kind of represent and be able to don that Lakers jersey. So it's something that I was obviously very fortunate enough to witness as a young kid, and then be able to represent as a young man, and being able to continue to do that at the senior level now. It's a dream come true. So yeah, just obviously it's a major part of of living in Peterborough and being a young boy playing lacrosse in the summers. And it's not just kind of something we do during the summers. It's kind of a lifestyle that we're all very proud to kind of carry that torch for the time being when you're in it, and then try and pass it on to the next generation of players better than you found it.
Right. One of the things also that really stands out to me is that all the legends are there. They're at every game. They're at pre-games, post-games. They're very accessible. They're very accessible to the players as well. Guys like John Grant Sr., Johnny Davis, Carm Collins, just to name a couple of guys that I get to see quite a bit. And they are right there with all you guys discussing things.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something I think, going back to kind of Frank's question at the start, like how did I kind of get into it? And like I said, it was something to do in the summers to start, and then once I kind of fell in love with it as a 10-year-old, I'd kind of go to every game there down at the Memorial Center every Thursday night. Back before there was turf and the nice AC, and
Mhm.
it was about 600 people there for a lot of those games. And without a doubt, every intermission and post game, I'd be out in the parking lot. The guys would be drinking and smoking, and they basically sign every article of clothing or every program or ball I had in my hand. So to kind of be able to experience that as a young kid and see these guys who I'm watching and idolizing out there on the floor be like normal human beings, just like me and you.
Mhm.
When the game was over, I think that was obviously something that stuck with me, and something that really makes Peterborough special. I mean, you go to games and you have 5-year-olds, maybe 100 of them out there on the floor playing with each other, and a lot of those are kids of current and former players. And that's obviously something that builds a sense of community and that everyone's in this together. So it's definitely a city that breeds exceptional lacrosse players and exceptional athletes in general. I think the big reason why is because the accessibility to some of the guys that have done it before you.
Right. One of the things that I think would be just an amazing thing is you're going to games as a kid, and now junior A, you're playing on that floor, and you look up into the stands, and what's your feeling?
Just a lot of pride, to be honest. I mean, not even up into the stands. You look at our
Mhm.
our coaching staff at the time, and it was John Grant, or as Tracy Koluski, sorry, Matt Giles and Todd Richard, who were three guys again that I grew up watching. So yeah, I mean, it definitely kind of imprints a standard in you that you have to upheld. And really fills you with a deep sense of pride that you have a job to do, and you're gonna fight like hell to make sure that you're successful at it, and that you're making those guys proud as well. So yeah, it was always a really cool experience. I remember as a 16-year-old who I was kind of on the fringe, at least in my opinion, of making the squad. They took a shot at me, and it was something that at the time maybe I didn't realize it, but in hindsight, it was maybe the most important season and kind of point of my lacrosse career. And it really kind of helped me understand what it took to play at that level at the time, and also what you have to do to stick around there. And every single night, you don't take your spot for granted. You go and you do the job that those guys tell you to do, and you don't ask questions. And they've done that before you for numerous years and got to the point where they got to for a reason. So yeah, it just fills you with a really deep sense of pride and makes you want to not make those guys disappointed.
Right. Let's talk a bit about college. You go to Ohio State. Talk about that program. Why Ohio State and not some of the other programs around?
To be honest, Gary, I didn't really have many other options. It was kind of, I was almost dead set on going to Hartford because it was kind of the best school that was available
Mhm.
financially. And I had a lifeline there with TK Tracy Clussy going, being an alumni there. And
Right.
yeah, I was kind of a late bloomer, I guess, in the whole recruiting process. But um, and also, at Ohio State, I had my best friend there, Turner Evans. So that also, I used to go down with his dad back in the day and
Mhm.
go and visit him before. That kind of seemed like a pipe dream myself going there. And then, I played on a travel team that Tracy started up, Evolve Elite, which is one of the best programs in North America now. And obviously had some familiarity with it with Turner going there. And He knocked on some doors and made some phone calls, and I kind of grinded it out my senior year and went to a bunch of tournaments in between junior games, and
Right.
yeah, they gave me an offer, and the rest was history.
Now, talk about the player that you were when you came in and the player that you were when you came out, because your last year you were captain. So you obviously had a big transformation while you were there.
Yeah, huge. I mean, going in there, I was, I never really have left Peterborough other than for a couple weekends going down to the States for tournaments. So I didn't really know the world outside of the Kawarthas. So, going down there and experiencing a big city like Columbus, Ohio, in Midwest America, it was definitely kind of a culture shock to me. As much as they are very similar people to us up here, I was kind of like a little bit of a fish out of water. So. I don't want to say I took it for granted my first year or so, but I definitely was just kind of content being able to say that I was Ohio State Buckeye on a scholarship there. So, thankfully, I was able to stick around after my first couple of years, even though at times it looked like maybe I would have been sent home or maybe passed up on. But yeah, Coach Myers was one of the most influential people and coaches in my life, and again, he saw something that I never really was able to see in myself at the time, and he, invested a lot of time and effort into me, and kind of got me on the right path. And from there, I started doing the right things, and kind of had a breakout year my junior year. We had a good run my sophomore year actually, where he kind of used me sparingly here and there behind this graduate senior we had. So for the first time in my life, I kind of had to sit on the bench and kind of watch another guy do my job that I maybe thought at the time I should be doing. But in retrospect, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And yeah, kind of got everything on the right track. And then from there, I had my breakout year, my junior year, and my senior year was voted captain. That's when we made that kind of magical national championship run.
Right. Now, obviously, people took notice because the NLL comes calling in 2017. You get drafted second overall, and you're off to Rochester. Now, what did Kurt Steyer say was going to be your role coming on into Rochester? Because this is just after the repeat. They're into a bit of a rebuild. They're starting to get some success again. What was told to you as you got drafted? Because it's a high draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that draft, there's a lot of good players taken in that first round. Burden was one, I was two, and Zach Curry was three. And I think at the time, obviously, a lot of people are kind of scratching their head, and maybe still to this day. But Kurt, I think watching me in the summertime when we were kind of going through that three-peat with the Lakers, he saw something in me that he liked, and he liked my game. And coming in, he didn't really say much. He's a man of very few words, but when he speaks, he's definitely very intentional with it. So, he was great. He instilled a lot of confidence in me right from the moment he chose me, and spoke to me at the NL draft. And, he said, we picked you for a reason. We picked you because we like your game, and we like what you can bring to us at the Nighthawks organization, and just be yourself and play your game. And, that's exactly what I did. Thankfully, as much as, like you said, people thought we were maybe in a rebuild year there, I think we started 2-8 or 2-9, and kind of hit a turning point in the middle of that season where we beat Saskatchewan, and we had a really good rookie class with myself and Danksy and Fennell, and some very, very good veteran leadership that kind of pulled us together. And with Jammer and Sid Smith at the helm, and we kind of turned around and made that run to the finals where we came up a little short, but it was definitely, I couldn't really ask for a better rookie year, apart from obviously us being able to win that. But it was definitely one of my favorite years of lacrosse I've ever played.
Right. One of my favorite questions to ask is your first training camp with them. Was it what you envisioned it would be?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think I had the luxury of playing, obviously in the NCAA for 4 years, which is obviously a very cool experience. That I tell guys all the time, like, I've been in a lot of locker rooms from junior to MSL to NLL, the Team Canada, and you'll never really get an experience like that with the NCAA, and 50 guys in your locker room that you hang out with for basically 8 months a year. You're going to class together and all that stuff. But with that being said, I think being able to play summer ball from the time I was basically 18 years old, and then having those 3-man cup runs, that definitely helped prep me for the NLL and going into training camp. So As much as obviously even the NLL compared to the MSL is maybe a little step up in skill level and just kind of overall speed and quickness of the game. It definitely helped prime me for that training camp. So I think I was kind of primed and ready to go for that. And um, the jump from the MSL ranks to the NLL ranks wasn't as big as maybe it
Right.
was for a lot of other guys who don't get that kind of luxury of playing in 3-man cups in a row.
Right. Now, strange things happen, but the franchise moves. And even stranger is that Rochester gets an expansion thing. So you actually move from the home dressing room to the visitors dressing room when you're in there. It's strange. What was told to you guys when this thing was happening?
Um, Not too much actually. Like we obviously weren't really involved in the business side of it or anything like that. We obviously found out, I think it was halfway through the season in 2018, 2019, that we'd be relocating to Halifax. And like I said, Kurt's a guy that's a man of few words, but his words when he speaks and his actions when he does something are very intentional and usually calculated. So we had all the trust in the world in him that he was making the right decision. And as much as I was sad to move to Halifax from Rochester, I was obviously very excited for the new experience and the new opportunity. And I've only heard good things about Halifax at the time. I never actually had the opportunity to go out there, but from everything he was saying and people that in the executive and stuff that have been out there and we're kind of getting the wheels turning on this thing, they're saying it was going to be a really really special thing. So yeah, we were kind of told obviously that there's going to be a move and that we had obviously a job and um a job to do for the city of Rochester for the remaining 9-10 games or whatever it was. And
Mhm.
we took that very seriously and we finished out that season. And I don't know if we made playoffs, but um yeah, that's kind of all we were privy to.
Right. Now, it happened at a strange time, too, because the world shuts down with COVID and you're busy trying to build a fan base in a new city where you're not sure about what's going on. You guys are really well received because once everything opens up again, you guys hit the ground running and the city embraces you like really like no other. And it's full. I've had a lot of the privateers, coaches and players on the show, and they love it. They love it. And it saved the junior programs in there as well.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the best sports cities in the world in my opinion, at least that I've been able to experience. And I'm obviously very biased, but I mean anyone that you ever speak to that goes out to Halifax has only great things to say about the city and the community. It doesn't matter if we're up by 10 or we're down by 10. That fan base is always behind us, and they're always cheering for us and making sure that we feel their support. So yeah, it was definitely kind of an odd time to make that change. That was kind of unexpected when we were going out there, but I think we did a good job. I think we had 8 games or 11 games that first season before COVID shut it down, and we made a good, kind of immediate impact on the community in the city of Halifax, where we almost kind of it almost kind of helped us in the long run because we kind of started that buzz and then it got taken away. So everyone was kind of on the edge of their seats and kind of itching for us to get back out there. So when everything opened up, it was with open arms, and I think we've done a great job representing the city and the lacrosse community out there since our inception in 2019, and it's only growing since then. So, to kind of touch on the privateers and the minor lacrosse system there, like when we went out there, there was obviously stuff that was established, and I was fortunate enough being kind of a younger guy to, kind of be able to get more involved than I have the last couple of years since I've had kids.
Mhm.
But they've always been great. And there's always been, certain people, certain men and women that are involved in not only Halifax minor lacrosse, but minor lacrosse across the Maritimes that are very, very passionate about it and really want to see it grow and get to a point where they can some point kind of compete with the Ontarios and the BCs of Canada. So they're always very, very open to having us in for clinics and instruction and all that, and also do a great job of working with us in the community. So it's been very, very good partnership so far.
Well, yeah, and they've been very successful in the Rubeski tournament, which I'm at every year. And they've the last 3 years they've been in the finals. They've won 2 of them and lost in
Yeah,
overtime in the third one. So yeah, it's a very successful program, and the guys are just so enthused about everything about the game and students of the game. Definitely students.
exactly. Yeah, they're awesome. We always love working with those guys. So I'm hoping they extend an invite to me to that Prague tournament when I retire.
You'll love it. Once you go, you're never going to stop going. It's the
Yeah,
most amazing thing I've
I've
ever
been
seen.
there. I've been to Prague twice, so I've never been out to the tournament, obviously, but I've toured it for about 8 days total. I love that place.
Absolutely.
What did you take back from it? The best memory you had from going to Prague?
From Prague, I mean, the city is great. The nightlife was amazing. Like I went right out of college, both Octobers. I went the first year with my teammate Johnny Pearson. He went to Ohio State with me as well, and plays on Halifax with us now. And then the second year, I went with a group of us lacrosse guys, like me, Austin Shanks, and a few other guys. And I made sure we stopped there both trips. I mean, everything about the city is amazing.
Yeah.
Hold on. So, um, anywhere in Europe you go, obviously, I don't know if you guys have traveled around, but it's just the old buildings and the old cities, and it
Yeah.
seems like every place you go, the food is incredible. So, I
How was
definitely want to experience the lacrosse aspect of it, though. I think it's one of the coolest tournaments in the entire world. How big it is and how passionate people are.
How did you
Yeah.
handle Beach
I
Beer?
think I think Brady said it best when he was on the show a few weeks back, and he's talking about you were expecting a complex, and you're in a neighborhood.
Yeah,
You're seeing people walk to school, walking their dogs, and there's a rink in the middle of a neighborhood. And then you
yeah,
walk in, and there are thousands of people watching all these games, and it's incredible.
that's nuts. I've only ever heard great things about it, so I'm excited to hopefully experience one day.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the coaching over in Halifax, because you've had some, and you still have some fantastic coaches. Mike Kersey, who's been on the show, Tour, Billy D, now Suter, just some fantastic coaches to really hone what I think is a championship pedigree that you guys already have on that team. When you take a look at all the guys that you've got, from Warren Hill, Cody, to Randy Stotts, Clark Peterson, Bell, Graham Hosvick, Hogarth, yourself, and the list goes on and on, let alone the younger guys, Knox, Tarapenko, Wild. It's a great team. And it's just that one thing every now and again that trips. But I really think that you guys are on the edge of doing something really great.
Yeah, I mean, our coaching staff, especially, like those are, even before Suits came on board, which has been an amazing addition to our team and our organization. Like they're all guys that I grew up idolizing and or grew up fearing, to be honest, when it comes to Billy D. So yeah, and being able to watch Mike and Suits play in Peterborough and win Man Cups themselves, and then kind of be under their tutelage, playing pro
That's
myself, it's
that
a
suits
dream come
Lakers
true.
jersey behind me.
Yeah, nice. So he was obviously one of the fan favorites and one of my own personal favorites growing up. He was a guy that anytime I would see a fight come up on the game sheet when he was playing junior, I'd always try and search it on YouTube and find it and watch it. So those Orangeville teams that he played for back in the day, they were a lot of entertainment and something that I definitely would try and emulate my game after. And yeah, to be able to have those guys coach me, and Billy especially, my first couple of years after I moved to Halifax, he did a lot for my game, and just a lot for me as a human being with the kind of the friendship that I have with him. And
Mm-hmm.
um, he was a veteran too. When I came in, he came over to Rochester for the year there. We made that title run. He was really good
Right.
to me and a few other young guys, and kind of took us under his wing and made me a better human and a better player, and kind of showed me what it was like to kind of be a veteran. So the point I'm at now in my career, I'm definitely kind of looking back on some of those lessons I learned and try and use those to benefit the young guys that come in now. But yeah, I mean, top to bottom, like you look at our team on paper, and obviously I'd put us up against anyone.
I
I'd
agree.
say that since 2019, and there's obviously some small things that we have obviously been trying to right, that's kind of bit us in the ass, especially in the first round of the playoffs since we went out there. I think we obviously took a big step this year, kind of breaking through and getting to that second round and giving Saskatchewan all they could handle. But um, yeah, I think I'd agree with you, Gary. I think we're right on the cusp of doing something special, and it's about time. Hopefully, somebody can knock off Buffalo, and I think we could be the team that could perhaps do it.
I think so. I think you're one of the most well-rounded teams that the league has right now, and it's saying a lot. the parity in the league is incredible ever since Panther City folded. So it's wild to see the talent all over the place. But I think you guys are really, as that echelon goes, just right up there. Let's
Mhm.
talk a bit about major series. You've had three Man Cups with Peterborough. This year has been a strange year because it didn't look like it was going to be a great year to start with. But boy, oh boy, as the years come along and as this team is molded together, and with the addition of guys like Sykes and Page onto the team, as well as some of the other guys coming back, the Tony's having good summers and Rustaterra's having a great summer yourself, and getting used to having Nick Rose in net and playing a defensive structure that works with his game. I think that this team is, what I watched Thursday from the alumni box was the best game that you guys played all year. And I think it was the most complete game that I've seen. And with the youth and the veteran leadership, I really think that you can give Six Nations a run for their money. And you are my dark horse to get to the Man Cup this year.
No, well, thank you. We definitely appreciate that. It's uh, it's something that's as much as obviously you look across the MSL and obviously the WLA, like not taken away from any other team, and it's kind of, I guess me saying this is kind of taken away from ours as well, but I feel like every team's obviously gone in to try and knock off Six Nations, and that's just the reality of it. Is they're obviously, you look at their team on paper, and they're an all-star team from top to bottom, and
Yeah.
even some of the guys that will be in the stands watching would probably be considered an all-star in a lot of people's
Mhm.
books. So um with that being said, it's easy to obviously say that the team that has the most amount of all-stars is most likely going to win, but at the end of the day, it's the best team that you can assemble, and the team that gels the most that sometimes can come out on top. So I think we're in a good position right now where we're kind of getting to that point with 4 games left in the regular season, and I think last week, sorry, was a big step for us. Playing six and playing Brooklyn, the 1 and 2 teams in the league right now, and picking up those wins is something that's going to be massive for us down the stretch. So we definitely know that we can beat those guys, and some of the additions that Hazer's made and the executive have made. Looking at it on paper, seeing it on social media, maybe had some people scratching their head, but they work tirelessly to try and piece together a team that is gonna obviously be a good product on the floor for the great fans in Peterborough, but b be able to compete with Six Nations in Brooklyn, and then hopefully if we can get to that point, the big dogs out west. So they've done a great job doing that, and um,
Mhm.
they've been sliding guys in here and there,
Yeah.
kind of getting them comfortable, and I think majority of the team now is kind of comfortable with one another, and how each other likes to play, and especially on the back end, for us, kind of where Rosie likes to see shots, and where
Mhm.
he likes to kind of have balls funneled and stuff like that. So yeah, we're definitely coming together, and I think again we took a big step last week and kind of proved ourselves that we can beat anyone, and it's just getting to that point now where we can do that for 4 times in 7 games, right? That's a whole different beast,
Right.
especially in the dog days of summer when there's some hot arenas where fans are yelling at you, and it's been a grind for not only yourself but your family and the other 20 guys on that team.
Right. One of the things I think you have going for yourself is that you have younger legs in there as well, and in a long series, that's going to pay dividends because a lot of the guys there played some long NLL series as well. I think about the Bandits playing all the way to their cup, as well as not really having any break. And here you're going to
Mhm.
go into a hopefully a 5, 6, 7 game series that is going to be a grind, and I think that plays into the forte of Peterborough. Character wins cups, and talk about the dressing room in Peterborough.
Yeah, and kind of back to your first question on why I play, and it's the locker room, right? And I think over the course of my career in Peterborough, that's been something, as talented as you may have been in some of those seasons when we won the Man Cup, I think it always comes back to the character in the locker room, and it's something that again it's been kind of instilled in a lot of us from a young age, going back to our minor days to junior, and something that you definitely got to uphold when you're a senior, especially when you're playing against men. So I can't say enough about our leadership in that room. Hope being the captain and kind of being our foundation in there, and kind of righting the ship when it needs it and saying what needs to be said when it has to be said, and being a positive voice on the bench if we're up 10 or we're down 10, and just making sure everyone's on the straight and narrow. It's something that goes a long way, and it's a guy that's got a winning pedigree on almost every level of the sport,
Yeah.
and he's doing a great job with the juniors right now as well, and someone that everyone respects. So to kind of have him at the helm, being that kind of liaison between the coaching staff and the rest of us, and then some of us other veteran guys being able to kind of chip in with our voice and our character when we need to be. It's definitely a good mix that's kind of coming together when we need it to.
Right. Talk about being a fireman and having a lacrosse career and trying to make the two of them balance as well as family life. It's got to be difficult to try and get everything to work for you. There's got to be some really long days that happen because of it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I couldn't imagine myself working a 9 to 5 job Monday to Friday and playing lacrosse. Like I know a lot of guys do that, but I maybe I'm obviously spoiled with the schedule that we have with fire. But I wouldn't change it for the world. So first off, I got to give all the credit in the world to my wife, especially during those long NLL seasons when you're spilling into April and May, and you've been gone for the last 18 to 20 weekends, and she's at home with 2 young kids under 2, and come home on a Sunday where I just got a 5 a.m. flight, and I drove home an extra 2 hours, and then all I want to do is come home and take a nap. So and then back to work on Monday for a 24-hour shift. So she's definitely the real MVP behind the scenes, and she kind of makes my world go around and make sure that everything runs smoothly, so that when I'm able to get out and play on weekends and during the summertime on Thursday nights or whatever it may be on away games, I'm well rested and well fed, and kind of focused on the game, ready to go. So I think obviously as awesome of a job and schedule I have with the fire, and how good it is with being able to switch shifts to get time off to travel and play games. Kind of having her by my side and keeping everything on the straight and narrow at home, it
Right.
definitely helps me, be able to focus on my job when I get to the rink.
Right. Do you talk to some of the other guys who are firefighters to try and, guys who've been doing it for a lot of years, like the Dawsons and things like that, to try and, figure it out?
Yeah, so like when I actually got into the whole process because of the Dawson brothers my rookie year. So we had a guy come in and speak to us about a pre-service course in Texas, and when he left, they kind of elaborated on it and kind of gave their spin on kind of the reality of being a firefighter while
Mhm.
playing professional lacrosse, and it really inspired me, especially with how respected those guys are and how good of veterans they were, just good people in general. So
Right.
when I was going through that process of trying to get hired and stuff, when I kind of really put my foot down on the pedal and went at it, my third or fourth year in the league, Paul especially was a big guy and a big resource that I leaned on, and I'd call him all the time, and he was always, you know, very welcoming and a very good resource to use, and a good friend to kind of bounce ideas off of. And if I ever got discouraged or whatever, he was always a great guy that would kind of cheer me up and let me know that everything would work out, and thankfully it did. So yeah, kind of being able to see those guys be able to do it with their own families and the careers that they had and how they approached the game, it definitely was a big help in me kind of getting to that point. So I don't know if I'll play as long as those two guys did, but yeah, it was definitely being able to share the locker room with them back in my rookie year was definitely something that helped alter my career into fire, and kind of being able to do it with a family and continue to play the game I love.
Right. Right. Now you're the perfect person to ask this question. And it is, we've always heard about NLL going full time and can we do it? Can it be done? I want to hear from the other side where you have a career. Would we lose guys like you if it went full time?
I mean, if they paid us $1 million a year, perhaps, but you know what I mean.
Well,
I mean, that's if you look at least my profession, like over 30 years, that's a lot of money to give up, right? And
Yeah.
not saying that once you get out, you can't get back in, but like it wouldn't really make sense. Now, with that being said, obviously, I'm really good friends with some of the guys in the PA and stuff, and I like having these conversations because, as much as I love the game of lacrosse, and I'm obviously involved in the league, looking forward when I'm, all done, the sticks hung up and the gloves are put away. Like I want to see the longevity of professional lacrosse go on and be in a better position than when I played it. So, um, talking to those guys, I think there is obviously an opportunity for that to go full time, especially if they did even, say they implemented it next year. But with that being said, you definitely have to kind of grandfather guys like myself and, some of the other guys that have full time careers kind of into that. And, maybe, we don't per se live in market, but maybe we get a little more involved, and that's where you
Right.
can kind of get some of those young guys and give them more opportunity to get out and market and live out there and, kind of slowly just make that transition to full time.
Right. Right. Now, you played a little bit with the PLL as well, which is a testament to you being that all-around athlete of field and box. Talk about the league itself and how it's grown over the last couple of years.
Oh, I mean, every year it seems like it gets faster, right? And I don't know if I mean, the athletes are obviously getting better. I think you could say that across every sport, but at the same
Right.
time, I think, the NHL kind of set the precedence for it, but they're definitely putting more of an emphasis on skill. So, tailoring some of the rules towards that, and less clutching and grabbing and less rough stuff, making it more appealing to the casual fan and people that want to obviously see the skill of the game, which is good, obviously. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, but yeah, I think it's obviously getting more skilled each and every year and getting a little bit faster. So, with that being said, I think every other position is also catching up. So, goalie, for example, Vino's 42 or 43, and he's playing some of the best lacrosse of his career.
Yeah.
You've got guys like Del Bianco and some of these younger guys that are coming into their own and becoming elite. So as much as they're getting more opportunities to score as an offensive guy, I also think it's getting harder to beat the goalies. And then for myself personally, kind of just looking at the face-off position, the transition it's made from, my rookie year in 2017, 2018 to what it was this past season. Like, back then I had, maybe had one or two guys that actually kind of knew what they were doing, quote unquote face-off guys. But
Yeah.
um, since then, this past season, it's like every other team now has a guy that can obviously make it a battle and, make life a little more difficult on yourself. And then at the same time, you got some Americans that have came in and, you know, as typical stereotypical face-off guys that have also, kind of worked on their game as a lacrosse player and are able to stay out and play defense as well. So I think that's obviously something that's very, very, very beneficial to the game of lacrosse and as a whole, and kind of merging that gap between field and box a little more, which kind of going back to your full-time lacrosse
Mm-hmm.
player thing at the professional level. I think the closer we can get with the PLL, obviously off field especially, but on floor on floor product as well. I think the better it is for lacrosse as a whole.
Absolutely. We just got out of All-Star Weekend with PLL. Do you think the NLL is missing a boat by not having an All-Star game anymore? And I'll preface it afterwards with an idea for you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm always for more lacrosse, the better, right? So I think an all-star game would be sweet, especially if I was able to play in it. But I know, like speaking to some of the guys that used to, be able to have the opportunity to play in it when they were going to Australia and whatever else, they always loved it, right? So I know that might be a big commitment financially for the league, but. I mean, I had it on my TV. I'm kind of a lacrosse rat myself, but I watched the PLL All-Star game, and as much as at points you can kind of tell the guys are just kind of going through the motions there. I think again, more accessibility to the game of lacrosse, whether it be indoor or outdoor, or whether it be an actual regular season or playoff game or an All-Star game. I think it's better for the
Mm-hmm.
league or whatever league may do it. So. Yeah, I mean, I never watched them NLL ones because I think they're obviously before my time of having all that on TV, but I definitely would be all for it.
Right. Now, the idea that I had was it eliminates some of this walking through the motions. Is that the champions team? So this year, Buffalo, of course, would host it, and they would be the team A, and then the All Stars from the league would be playing them. They're not going to want to lose to the All Stars. The All Stars don't want to lose to Buffalo, and they have all year to market the game. So you get a full house, and you get a game that has some meaning, let alone a skills competition, all the other things that go along with the weekend. Just a thought.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, in a perfect world, that'd be amazing. I just think obviously you run into some hoops and stuff you had to jump through for injuries and all that stuff. One guy gets injured, they're going hard to try and beat the defending champs, and then
Mhm.
it gets kiboshed again, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a tricky thing, but again, I would really enjoy it, to be honest. It'd
Especially
be
with the
cool if they
TV contracts, right? With ESPN and TSN on board, and for long term now, this would be something to show the whole world.
exactly, and I mean the PLL, I think they obviously do a pretty good job with it. The skills competition is cool. I just feel like in box you can being inside of an actual arena and the smaller nets and stuff, and I think you could do a lot of a good like, kind of chunk of it as a skills competition
Mm-hmm.
with shootout and all that stuff, and you're picking corners on a 6x4 or whatever it is, and not a big large net that to the casual viewer it doesn't really make as much sense when there's nothing kind of behind the net. I don't know. I just think the NLL will be a better product for an All-Star game, but
I agree.
each their own.
I've been on my soapbox for years about it. We'll see if we can actually get it going.
Yeah,
Now
keep going.
we talk about the world stuff, and the Olympics is coming up in a couple of years' time. Talk about your thoughts on sixes. I know it takes your job away though, since there's no face-offs other than the opening face-off. What's your thoughts?
I mean, again, more lacrosse the better. So to get that, if it had to be that to go into the Olympics, then so be it. I'm gonna obviously sit there and watch each and every game. Um, if I had the opportunity, obviously try and make that team and had the opportunity to represent Canada, that'd be even better. But like you said, it kind of takes a big chunk of a player like myself and what makes me valuable away. But with that being said, I think it's obviously a relatively brand new version of the game, but it's something that is a lot more accessible to other countries, and being on the Olympic stage, that's kind of what you're tailoring your sport to try and do, right? So um, I would obviously, like most Canadian born players, I think would prefer it. They just chose box lacrosse, but again, it's hard to outfit a lot of these teams with everything they need and to find a rink with boards and stuff. So yeah, I think sixes is great, and I think it's going to kind of put lacrosse in the limelight, and kind of give it that public stage that it really needs.
Right,
And yeah, I'll be right there watching it and cheering on Team Canada.
right. I had Bob DeMarco on from World Lacrosse to explain why sixes, and it turned out that they could only bring 10,000 people from the Olympic Committee. Uh, Entirely, which includes all sports, coaches, everything else. So if lacrosse wanted to get in, they couldn't bring a field team of 24 guys, coaches, trainers, and everything else, and have more than two teams. So at sixes, they needed a lot less players, as well as taking the best of box and field and trying to mesh it and morph it together like rugby sevens. And that's how they
Yeah,
came up with this idea.
that makes sense. I like that actually, but yeah, I guess you could. How many players do they actually have on a roster? Do you know?
I'm thinking 15 or 16 altogether. And then a couple of
Okay.
coaches and a trainer. And so they keep it under 20 per team. You can probably take 7, 8 teams and still be under the limit for what you're going to give to a sport.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what teams are actually in the Olympics. Have they announced that, or do you know anything?
They haven't yet. I think they're still doing, there's tournaments, and PLL's got their tournaments, and they're still trying to wangle it. The good thing is it's in LA, so that the PLL will have all their camera guys checking every angle and double checking everything, so that the product that we get to see is going to be as perfect as it can be to put lacrosse
Nice.
to 280 countries more. And that's
Yeah,
when we move from floor 3 or 4 that we're on and get to the top of the skyscraper.
yeah, that'll be nice.
Don't forget, Gary, it's going to be men and women.
Yeah, both men and women. Yeah, so
Wide
we got
range.
Now, you talked a little bit about coaching, and you've been involved in a few things. You were involved with the Face Off Academy, and also involved with the Evolve Elite. You also coach individuals too. Let's talk about how you got into coaching and where it's going and where you see yourself down the road a little bit.
Yeah, so I would obviously do some things around the Peterborough when I was growing up. But when I went off to school at Ohio State, it's obviously a whole different market down there, with the private lessons and the coaching clinics and all that stuff. So I actually kind of used the Face Off Academies mold, I guess, or training program when I was trying to figure out how to become a better face off guy in college. And it was having Greg Renlian, who was a good friend of my coach's at the time, kind of work with me and kind of be in my corner when I was kind of trying to work through the intricacies of the position. He helped me get a lot better, and we kind of formed a little bit of a relationship. And from there, once I graduated and was drafted to the MLL and start playing in that, there was an opportunity for me to jump on board with those guys. And I jumped all over it, and from there, the rest was kind of history. The first couple years of my pro career, all year long, I'd on bye weekends or off weekends, I would travel down there and sometimes hit two major cities, and anywhere from Florida to Texas to Ohio, wherever it may be. And sometimes I'd coach 12 kids, and sometimes I'd coach 50. So it was something I kind of just got into from developing a love of the position. And the more and more I did it, the more and more I enjoyed doing it. And yeah, it's kind of snowballed from there. So when COVID came along and that was kind of taken away from me, we pivoted as a company and start doing some virtual stuff, and kind of using that to extend our reach as the Face Off Academy was something that was awesome. Kind of helped me stay sane and be able to work with the youth all over North America. We're
Right.
kind of going through a very unique time in human history. So I did that pretty steady for about 5 or 6 years, and till I kind of got my career firefighting in Oshawa. And the last couple of years since then, and since having kids, it's kind of taken a back seat. But yeah, it was definitely a great 5 or 6 years of my life. I met a lot of awesome people. Nothing but good things to say about Greg and Jerry at the Face Off Academy, and they're always very good to me. They always were very passionate about the sport of lacrosse and the face off position. And they're still going hard running that program. And I know there's a lot more that have came along since then. And they all do a very, very good job of trying to always transcend the position to a new level. And I think obviously back to what we were talking about earlier, you can kind of see how well they've been doing. And I had obviously a very, very small part of that, but how well they've been doing at transcending the position of facing off. Because you look back 20 years ago, or even when I was in college, a lot of the guys, a lot of the stereotypes around the position were big meatheads that could barely handle the ball if they did win it. And now you're seeing these polished athletes who kind of take face-offs as a compliment, and they're a lacrosse player first, but face-off athlete second. So it's a lot of the guys that they train from the grassroots level are now playing big parts in a lot of PLL teams and a lot of NLL teams, and it's cool to see.
Jake, to answer your question, there's going to be 6 women and 6 men teams competing.
Okay, nice.
And then
Right on.
for the gold.
Appreciate it, Frank. Yeah, that'll be good to watch. I'll definitely be catching every men's and women's team Canada game, so hopefully we can double gold.
Absolutely. Now, do you see yourself going into the NLL coaching down the road?
I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. I mean, I apart from coaching with the Face Off Academy and doing some stuff with the Evolve Elite program. I did a summer or two with the Junior Lakers, which I really enjoyed. But it was definitely something that taught me a lot about myself as a mentor to people, especially in the game that I'm currently playing. And it was something that was really kind of hard for me to wrestle with when something would go wrong on the floor, didn't go as how I would have done it, and I have nothing. I have no ability to really change how that went or be able to go out there and change it on my own. So,
Right.
um, that, and obviously starting a young family and a new career, I had to step away. But it's definitely something that's intriguing to me, and something that maybe once I take a few years away from the game, it will probably have me coming back, and yeah, I'll just have to play it by ear and see.
Absolutely. I really want to thank you for taking the time and talking lacrosse with us, and I wish you all the best in the upcoming games, MSL, and your strive for the Mann Cup this summer, as well as with the Thunderbirds and your strive for the NLL Cup.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully see you around the rink again, Gary. So I don't know if Frank comes to games or anything, but if you're ever down in the borough, don't be afraid to say hello.
Absolutely.
All
I'll
right.
be
Well,
there
thank you
Thursday,
guys.
so looking forward to seeing you.
Sounds good, Gary. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for doing this, guys. All right. For Gary
Yeah.
Groob and Jake Withers, I'm Candid Frank. Thank you for watching NLL Talk. We'll see you again next week. Normally on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Sometimes we make very special concessions for very special people, and Jake happens to be one of them. Thanks for doing this, Jake.
Thank you very much.